I had an argument with a fella at work the other day, and I'd be of the belief that Kerry could be. They mightn't just do the 5 in a row, but out of the next 7, 8 All Irelands, I can't see them winning any less than 4 or 5. Like, they've won this All Ireland this year. It was probably the hardest one because they had to get over the line and get that winning feeling. Next year, back to back, will be probably just quite as tough because they have to have the hunger again. But I just don't see, if they probably hit 70% in the big games there where they need to be. They didn't come near where the quality they have to click. If they click, bar Dublin, I don't think there's a team touches them.
Hi there, you're very welcome along to the GAA with me, Darran O'Sullivan. The inter-county season is over, but we've loads to talk about. Highs, lows, who achieved their goal and who underachieved. I'm delighted to be joined remotely by Donegal's Eamon McGee and in studio, Kevin's Cian Mackey. How are we doing, boys?
All good, lad, all good.
Good, Darren. I hope when we talk about performances of the year, we'll get it for last week's, the performance we put in last week. It was a tough slog after Sunday night now.
You're giving away a couple of secrets there. We were all very sober, all no hangovers, it was all good. You put in a great performance.
Sorry.
No, but look, I suppose we'll start with the ladies' final. Unfortunately, I'm not as happy this week. Kerry, I thought they put up a good show, but just couldn't get over the line against, look, what can only be said is a fantastic Meath team. Just the pace and the power of them, Cian. They're just they're on some journey the last couple of years.
Yeah, an unbelievable journey, like winning intermediate and then kind of a shock to win the All Ireland last year, and then just came and bowled through everyone. Like they just went through everyone fairly comfortably. But like the like of Vicky Wall, like Jeepers watching her yesterday, the engine she has, like, and she's so physical and she can break lines, but she can run. She was running all day, you know. So like she had some desire to turn over ball, and I don't know if Kerry had the maybe big players like herself and Duggan. They didn't have anyone to match them players, and that was a huge downfall for them because them two players really stood up again for Meath, and they're two ladies that are hard to tie down, you know, like they're always coming with the goods.
Yeah, Eamon, it'll be interesting to see how Meath kick on from here, if they can kick on. Obviously losing Vicky Wall and Orla Lally to the Australian rules, and could possibly lose a few more as well. So it'll be interesting how they keep the group together.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, surely. But the thing about it seems to be about that Meath ladies group, you know, that they're just mentally strong. You know, in terms of where they've come from. They were down against Donegal in the semi-final, came back. You know, first half against Kerry there, they had a wee setback and they came back. So, you know, it's a massive loss losing players that is that caliber, but you know, they're probably not going to feel sorry for themselves and just get on it again and go at it again.
Yeah, and I suppose just from a Kerry point of view, they put up a great first half, to be fair, and just maybe a bit of know-how and experience probably cost them in the end. But like that we were saying about Meath, the last 5 years they lost 2 intermediates in a row. They won an intermediate and now they've won the last 2 All Irelands. Like, so they're an example for the likes of Kerry, who won in Division 2 this year, how to kick it on. If they can keep the likes of Louise Mahurtig going and a few more of them, there's no reason why they can't be back competing. And obviously, look, you're going to have Dublin and Cork chomping at the bit to get back up at the top table again next year. Yeah,
and like Kerry got the start they probably dreamed of getting, you know, the 1-2 to a point up, and just it was kind of, I don't know now, the lassie be able to say herself whether it was a true ball for the first Meath goal or not. Now, my think is it was a bit of a scuff shot, but it can happen, and that little thing just triggered Meath and got them right back into the game, and that was what Kerry didn't need. Kerry needed to keep a bit of distance for as long as possible, but when Meath got that goal, then that was just all they needed. The press, the kick out, the press of a kick out could show up men's teams. Like, there were a couple of camera angles from behind the goals, and it just showed that Kerry tried an overload and it just wasn't working. So they clearly do a lot of work on the tactical side of the game as well, you know, and that's they've bear fruit from that, you know. They really squeezed the kick out and put a lot of pressure on Kerry when they got the goal. And I think second half, Kerry 2 points, was it? Kicked 2 points, you know. So, you know, they managed the game very well as well, and just didn't, no lull in their play at all. They just convincing.
Yeah, like that. Even the way they shut out Louise Mahurtig, like, she's our danger woman. Like, you know, she's incredible, and she's been doing it for so long for Kerry, and they just shut her out. And anytime she got into that scoring zone where she might be able to hurt them. They had 2 and 3 around them. But Eamon, another big point is obviously it was the first final in, I can't remember how many years, Dublin, but no Dublin or Cork. There was maybe a bit of worry about the attendance, but there was the bones of 49,000 there again the weekend, which is massive. It just shows how much progress and how big the ladies' game is getting now.
Yeah, that's the thing, and it seems to be across the board when you look across the water too with the women's final there. And basically, they have the motto. You know, the female game has the motto. You can't see. You have to see it, and you know the marketing is improved in it. You know the terms of the sponsorship, and it all gathers towards it. Once girls are able to see it and put it on the shop window, you know that's what they'll aspire to be. And that's the, you know, credit has to go to the Ladies Association for doing that. And you know they'll push on, and people get clued into the games. You know, I would never consider myself anywhere near as knowledgeable as I am on the senior men's game, as I am with the ladies game there. What I'm trying to say. So you know, people get clued in, they'll take a bigger interest in it, and it's just on an upward curve.
Yeah, it's a lot about the skills. Like the skills of the game is huge for them. There's no, like I spoke about the tactic for the kick out of that, but the general play, it's a lot of kicking, a lot of winning your own battle. It's what men's football was maybe 20 years ago.
More free flowing.
Do you know, like enjoyable to watch.
It's a pure form. I found, you know, the lads is very methodical. And the ladies' game seems to be the pure form of Gaelic football now. There's a lot of differences in terms of scoring zone, in terms of, you know, the length of the kick pass and all that. You know, there's tweaks like that there now. But you're 100% there, Cian. And there's a lot more kick passing. There's a lot more. You've got to win your own ball, and it just seems to be pure.
Yeah, the only thing I do think they need to change is, like, obviously the ladies are physically really well conditioned, and we mentioned Vicky Wall earlier, and she seems to be punished an awful lot just because she is so physical. So I do think they need to maybe allow more physicality in the game. Some of the frees the last year they were very soft, and I think if you ask most of the ladies playing the game, they want a bit more contact, you know, because they're doing all this training. They're training as much as the men are now. They're in the gym, they're doing everything. And what's the point if you're being punished for being physically able to take the game to your opponent?
Yeah, well, look at it. Part of it is it's nearly you have to play the referee and what referee. Kind of like in men's football as well. You have to know what you're going to get away with and stuff like that. Like, and Vicky Wall, I think, was the very first challenge. She dropped the shoulder when past her player, and she was done for charging, and it was a bit mad now. But they gave away maybe 5 or 6 frees early on, Mead. But then it showed how good they were. They kind of figured out what the frees they were getting and giving away. But it was great. There was no giving out. And look, I'm a dab-handed it. I will definitely lose my marbles and give it to a referee every now and again, even though you 100% shouldn't. But like they were just going free. They dropped the ball and they were going off. Whereas like we would be up in arms and going bonkers. Do you know? So like it's great to see that too. It's showing like young girls like showing better for them than what we are probably for young lads, because we'd often be losing our shit, and it's not a good thing to show young kids. Like,
no, and that's probably something that like the GAA needs to bring
stamp
in.
out.
Yeah, look, it's something that's another podcast. To be fair, like you'd see it in rugby, it's something they learn from a young age.
Yeah.
Whereas in the GAA, it's kind of built into us that if a decision goes against you, right or wrong, argue it, and you might change his mind. But I suppose, look, we'll go back to the men's championship, and it's the first week in August. Championship is over. It's the elephant in the room. How are you feeling about it now? I have a lot of people asking me below in the bar, like kind of going, oh, geez, the football's over now, we've nothing. And I was kind of going, well, you've had the same amount of games as you would any other year, but you didn't have to wait 4 weeks for them. Cian, I'll go to you first, and just how do you think it's gone? Like,
look, I think it's a brilliant format. Really enjoyed it. It's bang, bang, bang. Better for the players. Now, don't get me wrong. There'll be a Sunday now in a couple of weeks, and you'll be kind of going, gee, no GAA to watch. So, like now, I think they have to put more effort into maybe televising a couple of club games from around the country. People will still watch them. Do you know, like so. Like it'll bring if they put the money into maybe watching a couple of club games, you know, there's when it comes to near the end of the championships, county finals and that, they start to go, yeah, we'll play some of them. But there's like in Cavan there, Cavan Gales are playing Cristalaw. They played a league final there last Sunday. Went to extra time. I think it finished 6-4 14 to, I don't know, 3 or 4, something else. Like, it was a point or 2 points in it after extra time. They're playing the first round of the championship now in 2 weeks. That's a game that could be on TV. Like, do you know? So there is games all the way around the country that they could televise, and we aren't missing our weekly fix of GAA if that's what it is. Like,
And
so
that's something the clubs did really well during COVID. Like
streaming and stuff. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yeah, it was. And like, that's another way of keeping everyone involved in games all over the country. Like that Clifford was back in action for his club Fuss at the weekend. And Eamon, I don't know what your opinions are on the split season, or I genuinely don't think there's any right answer. I don't think we'll ever stop arguing or debating about it.
No, I think you're right in what you're saying. I think people have their views, and there is equally valid either side of it. My own opinion is there's a price to be paid for condensing the season, and again, this is my opinion. I think that's a price that's worth to be paid, because you think of the county players. That whole inter-county season is spread over the year, for me, was unsustainable from the manager's perspective. We'll talk later on about the various managers and the manager merry-go-round that's going on. It's so unsustainable from their perspective. It's unsustainable from a player's perspective, spread out. But in a condensed season, it's it's achievable. It's still tough, and there's a lot of sacrifices to be made, but it's achievable. And in terms of the club game and the fixtures was a mess before this. You couldn't plan anything. You were coming up on a Thursday night, you're wondering if you're going to play a league game. You didn't know when the championship was. And at least there's a wee bit of structure to it now, although it needs a wee bit of tweaking. With Donegal here, we would have played a split season. We'd have played the league game without the county players, and there was no zip about the league. We're struggling to get players. Other teams are struggling to get, and it was just two teams thrown together, play a league game, tick a box. And for me, you want to be going to the club games, and you have Michael Murphy against Michael Lang and Paddy McBrearty in a shootout, and you want the best players on view, and that's how you make the club game better. So if we can push towards that, I'd be a wee bit happier. But split season, in my opinion, is the way to go.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. The people who seem to be most happy with it and who are the most important in it are the county players, because they're the ones that people want to see. You want to see the highest level. The only downside to it, I actually think, is like when we got to quarter-final, semi-final and final, they were every 2 weeks. Then it becomes, like you mentioned the word price, and that's exactly what it is. It's pricey for people to get up and down to Dublin, especially if you are travelling from a Donegal or a Kerry, which is so far away. If you're bringing a family, that's the only thing I found, because I actually wanted to go up to the ladies' game, and I was there 4 times in 7 weeks. It's a saucy racket, and I didn't go up Sunday, but that's the only thing. And like, if you're bringing up a family, it's hard going. But look, there are going to be tweaks.
Like the first year around, they're not going to have it absolutely perfect, and when it comes nearer to the end of the quarter-final stage, they potentially could put an extra week in between maybe one of those games and let teams freshen up. But like, I think a huge thing for the mediocre teams, these teams in the middle, when they're not at the top table, they lose players. Like over 10 years there in Cavan, we lost a phenomenal. The turnover of player was ridiculous. If you have a 6-month period and a lad is mad to travel, then he goes, right, look it, take 6 months, go, come back. Yes, he mightn't be there for his club, and that, like, you want him there for his club as well, but you're going to lose him for both otherwise. Lads to just go, this season is way too long and I'm gone. He's losing out on both club and county. Whereas if he gets his 6 months away, he comes back, then plays with the county, and then he might stay for his club. He's not going to go travelling 6 months every year. But that 6 month window,
it's out of the system.
Might get it out of the system. And then next of all, you're keeping your top players. And these mediocre teams who are trying their best to build aren't losing the players that they need to keep the most. Because look at lads nowadays want to travel. Like you've Rian O'Neill and these boys shooting the lights out over in America. That could be out of their system now, and they will be chomping at the bit for their club and Armagh when they come back. Like these moments don't happen for too many lads. So I think the season coming that way is great. But I think, as you said, and Eamon said, little tweaks here or there. But I think for the first year of it, Now, we'll know more after the club championship, obviously, but I think for the first year of it, I think it has been a huge success, and probably the only people that aren't happy about it is the people that are making extra money out of a longer season, and they're not the important people. It's players, player welfare, stuff like that. So if players are happy, then they'll want to play county football. Then you have your best players playing. Then the viewers are happy because they're seeing the best players playing the best games, and then the whole thing rolls and it becomes just a normality. It's then, geez, remember 10 years ago we used to be here slogging for 10, 11 months. It'll be forgotten about.
Yeah. And like that's it, like the days of waiting for the All-Ireland final to the end of September are definitely gone. But the only difficulty I found was it's a feast or a famine. There was so many games at the start, and the three of us were here and you're trying to talk about them, but it was impossible to see them. So there are tweaks to be done. But this argument as well that was out there that we were given an advantage to other sports, I couldn't understand it, Eamon, because there was no other sport on. Do you know, there was no World Cup.
I get that. But, you know, there's definitely an argument to say that, because no matter what some of these pundits say or people in the media say, that a young fella doesn't give a hoot about club pride and, you know, pride in the parish and all this. What he wants is the big stadiums, the big days, you know, the glamour of it all. You know, you consider that he's up against the Premiership. He's up against the rugby where you have the full... This is what a young fella aspires to be. He aspires to the big days. So the more we have that in the shop window, the full Croke Park and, you know, the buzz about it and, you know, the newspaper spreads, that's where the young fellas will start to, you know, pick the Gaelic over soccer or pick Gaelic over rugby. That's how that happens. But it was being portrayed as bigger than what it was. You know, if we were to cut off a month, you know, it's not really going to make that big of a difference. Although a lot of these people were saying that the club game was the BN, you know, this is the best product we have. I don't, again, my opinion is that people get very touchy on this thing. We shouldn't idolise, I don't think, the club game, and we shouldn't put it as their primary, you know, product here. The inter-county game is the primary product. The club game has a lot of flaws, and maybe that's the attraction behind it, but there's a lot of flaws in terms of quality, in terms of the physical conditioning. So, you know, I get their argument, but it was being portrayed as bigger than what it actually was now.
I agree with you, and I don't know, would you agree that if you ever watch a soccer game, I'd be a big soccer fan now, I'd watch every day if it was on, but if you ever watch a soccer game or even a rugby game after a Gaelic football game or hurling game, it's torture. Yeah. It's just too slow and stop and start. And like you said, Eamon, there, the club game is great and it's all heart and pride and brilliant. The history of the club and, you know, but there's a big difference between county and club. Do you know, and the county game is where you have the best players who are physically conditioned like professional athletes. Now, for me, Eamon, I agree with you, there's no comparison. And I know some people will be on about the club, and the club is great, and I was lucky enough, my club would have been a small club and we grew away and we won a Club All-Ireland Junior. It was brilliant. But like when you compare the standard, it's chalk and cheese.
Yeah, but the fact is that the two youth boys are still playing club football, and I'd imagine you are still two effective players. Now, how do you think you would get on in an inter-county game at the minute?
Flying it.
Yeah, 1-6-1-7. That's
easy.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Ship the shore after 10 minutes.
Well, if I lasted 10 minutes in the county game now, I'd be doing all right, to be fair.
Yes, same as that. If I was in full back against, you know, Clifford or one of these boys, and the condition they're in and the shape I'm in now, and I'm still, you know, having an effect in a club game, so that tells you the difference in standard.
I'm not going to say I'm having an effect in a club game because we have championship next week and there's a good chance 60 minutes will pass and I mightn't touch the ball.
I'm having an effect, but a bad one, unfortunately.
But yeah, I get what you're saying, and like that, it's like everything. You glamorise something, and some people just have a negative impact on the county game. They have a negative attitude towards it.
They do, because
they have this elitism thing that keeps getting thrown about.
They see it that it's all, and as Eamon said, like 100% is right, but their argument then is you don't have that without the grassroots, and they're 100% right. So these players don't hone their skills anywhere but at club level, and then when you...
But it's like everything. You start at the bottom, you're working with the goal. Any young lad's goal is to play for their
Oh,
county.
100%. And I agree, like your points are 100% valid, but their argument is there's no county, there's no elite player without your club level football. And that's where it is. And it's either you have to try and push it along at club level to boost it up. But a couple of years ago, it started to go that, jeepers, it was nearly, some club teams were nearly like county setups.
Yeah.
And the whole joy out of playing was completely gone. You know, like it was drink bans for lads for 7-8 weeks before championship matches, no holidays, no nothing. Like, and lads were just kind of going. That would push lads quicker to rugby and soccer than anything else, in my view. Do you know, like, there has to be a certain amount of, right, enjoy winning and enjoy your games. Like lads have championship in Cavan in 2 weeks' time, and then boys at the league final on Sunday. Both teams went out and enjoyed their Sunday night. Whereas a couple of years ago, not a chance. Do you know, they would not be allowed. And it's kind of gone back a wee bit to, right, the camaraderie and playing football and enjoying the game. And I think club football is improving because of that. You actually have lads going, right, it's not always going to be a slog. Do you know, we're going to enjoy ourselves. Like, yes, you won't have your players that are in this peak physical condition, but come quarter-final, semi-final of championships, the big players, like, them players are all in fine tune. The early stages, yes, you'll have boys that are just kind of along for the ride, club teams that trying their best just don't have it. But when you get to a quarter-final of a championship, semi-final in 90% of the counties, a lot of them players are finely tuned and have been county under 21. Like, most teams that are winning championships at the minute have 7, 8, 9, 10 players that have been on county setups and knocking on doors of county setups. So, like, I do think a more relaxed approach to the club game is probably making club football better, because players are...
I couldn't agree with you more, Cian. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it was going that way. The club was trying to emulate the county in terms of the commitment, in terms of, you know, early gym sessions. Thankfully, you know, when they were trying to get me to do these early gym sessions when I retired from it, and I says, no way, I've done that, and I'm away from it. And, you know, thankfully, you know, some people are strong enough to be able to say, but, you know, you have a young fella that is never going to make county, and he just loves playing for his club, and he's forced to buy into that there. You know, that whole elite lifestyle. Well, that's not what the club's about. Yeah, definitely. Probably the most time I've agreed with you since the show started, Cian.
Only time.
It's a terror. It's about drinking and stuff the two of us have agreed on.
All in all, I actually think the split season, it's been a success. I had one argument on Twitter, well, one that I can remember, and it was a fella giving out about the amount of times they'll see David Clifford, and I was trying to get it through to him that you'll see him the exact same amount of time as in a Kerry jersey this year. It'll be condensed, and after All-Ireland you can see him every week for a fiver. Yeah. And he was out again the weekend, kicked 1-9 for the club despite having a week of celebrations, and straight back into it. So, like, I actually think it's great. You get to see all the county boys playing at the highest level, and then so quickly after you get to see him every week because there's so many games. But look, I suppose from a Kerry point of view, the first split season has gone well. It suited Kerry. Somebody has down here in the running order a Kerry Dynasty. They're trying to build Kerry up now to knock him down, and I'm not going to fall for it. But there is talks of, can this Kerry squad go on and do something like Dublin did because of the age profile? I think it's getting too ahead of it. If you look at quality, yes, they have the quality, but Dublin had something different. And I think it comes down to that mental side of the game, and that's something that Kerry haven't proven yet. Dublin had that unbelievable mental strength to be able to come back year after year after year. Kerry have to do an awful lot of proving, really, that they're at that same level. Yeah, well, I'm not convinced yet.
I had an argument with a fella at work the other day, and I'd be of the belief that Kerry could be, they mightn't just do the 5 in a row, but out of the next 7, 8 All-Irelands, I can't see them winning any less than 4 or 5. Like, they've won this All-Ireland this year. It was probably the hardest one because they had to get over the line and get that winning feeling. Next year, back-to-back, will be probably just quite as tough because they have to have the hunger again. But I just don't see, if they probably hit 70% in the big games there where they need to be. They didn't come near where the quality they have to click. If they click, bar Dublin, I don't think there's a team touches them. If they click, and on their best day,
Stop.
I don't know.
I've
Honest to
gone
God.
from agreeing with you 100% to saying radically disagreeing with you here.
Well,
I
I
don't
heard you.
think that.
I heard you last week coming off and saying that Donegal. Who are you sitting? Someone else. Donegal and someone else saying that Donegal could beat Kerry. Not a chance. Like they
I'm telling
couldn't
you
come
now,
out of that
there's,
game.
there's more than Donegal that can beat Kerry, and Kerry won't
Eamon,
do the back to back.
I'm delighted you're remote because this could get fiery here today.
No, but I just don't see where teams can think, right, Donegal, yes, good team. But
He said Armagh.
Armagh. Like Armagh bet Donegal be 18 points, and now you're thinking Donegal can beat Kerry.
The silence is deafening, Eamon.
I'm muted there.
Look at and
No,
Donegal will
think I've
regroup.
come
Like,
away from every game, like watching Kerry every game and thinking they can be beaten. And, they're going to come up. Someone that is one of their management tickets that have been put together is going to come up with a plan to stop Clifford. Going to come up with a plan to stop Clifford, O'Shea. And Kerry are going to struggle. And I think we talked last week, this is the most open championship going into 2023. And I think Kerry will, definitely it's in them to win in All Ireland back to back, but they're going to struggle because it's just so wide open. Dubs are going to be back next year. Donegal are going to get a kick. Whether you like it or not, Cian, we're going to get a kick here.
I hope you do get a kick.
No, I agree with him in the sense that
That's only because you're from Kerry. You're trying to play this down.
No, I do agree. I think going into next year, I think Kerry are top of the pile. I do. They're All Ireland champions. They're top of the pile. I can't deny that. But I do think next year will be the most open year we've had in the last 10 years. I also think, and I was 100% Jack was the man to bring back, and it's going to be a big challenge for him, and it's going to be a big goal of his to win back to back because he never did it as Kerry manager because Pat O'Shea came in and brought us to the back to back or whatever. And back to back is difficult. Like that, you mentioned it there, the boys got that first All Ireland. You could see how nervous they were in the first half. And once, I found it just brilliant to watch the celebrations all week because there was only 4 of them on the panel that had All Ireland medals. So they were all going through something new, something that they've been waiting years. And sometimes that just takes your edge off. So that's going to be a big challenge for Kerry. But like what Eamon said, you do have Donegal. And look, we've been waiting for Donegal for the last number of years, and there's more in them, there's more. They are going to have a new management team who you will hope, you'll always get a kick. Mayo, we don't know who's going to come in. Mayo have good players who I think they've underutilised with their style of play. They could change the whole thing up and bring something new. Like that, Dublin are going to be back. Galway, as Finian said last week, the day after the All Ireland was the most important day for them. So planning on being back. Obviously, I think Kerry are top of the pile. I agree. I don't think they hit the heights that they can hit in any game, bar maybe the first half of the Dublin game. So there's a lot more in them. Their age profile, who they lose this year, I don't know. I think the first thing Jack's done all week would be making sure David stays on board. I know he didn't have his best final, but he was sick and whatever. I just think David, just for the squad alone, is just so important. But I do think it's too early to be comparing him to Dublin. I just think that Dublin, despite all the footballers and the athleticism, they had the mental side of the game just nailed down. And I think the hurt of this year is going to make them very dangerous next year.
In my opinion, Dublin are the only team that really can tighten them. It was 4-point victory in an All-Ireland final that Kerry were very, very poor. Very, very poor. They never clicked for more than 10, 12 minutes in the match. And they won the game by 4 points. Galway, nothing nearly could go better than them, bar Comer playing well. Everything went right for Galway and they still couldn't get over the line over a poor Kerry team. If Kerry played them in a quarter final, they beat them comfortably.
Yeah. Well, look, it was one of them ones that I found it a funny game. I'd agree that I don't think Kerry played well, but I thought it was a sign of all the stuff that Jack and the likes of Paddy Talley and Mike Quirk and Darren Murphy have brought to the group, that they've learned how to win ugly, to ground it out and just plod along, which was obviously a good sign for Kerry because it was something they were lacking all year. I think the semi-final win against Dublin, that I genuinely believe if they went a point down, they were in trouble.
Well, they definitely were, and I thought that was a huge turning point in this team. It was that win over Dublin. But like they clicked against Dublin in the first half. If Sean O'Shea had scored that penalty, I know it's all if buts and monkey nuts, but if he had scored that penalty, what were they? 11 points up?
Could have been, yeah.
Like, and we're talking about these boys, no harm, like the Donegals, the Mayos, these boys thinking that they're going to close this gap. If Kerry the only way Kerry won't win in All Ireland is underperforming. And as you said, probably is, you'd know better than anyone, to win back-to-back All Ireland's quite tough. But the man at the top hasn't done it, so he's going to be driving it along. So they're going to be hungry for it. Do you know? So I just think it'll be Kerry themselves that don't win the All Ireland next year. Because there's teams, Dublin have to get more support for Conor O'Callaghan. Do you know, they're going to lose, like, they could potentially lose Cooper, Michael Fitzsimons. Like, them boys could call it a day. They're huge losses to Dublin. Do you know, Mayo have to bring in something completely different. So in 1 year, they're not going to change a full style of football. Donegal...
Tyrone did it.
Tyrone did, but Tyrone are probably one of them teams that kind of they can change. They have running power. They can kick long.
But so can Armagh. Or so can Donegal. So can Mayo. Come on, give them a chance.
They can't.
Eamon's gone very quiet there. I think he's giving you the eyes.
I'm just, I don't know. I just don't see Kerry. You know, Dublin, if we were to believe the rumours and the WhatsApp messages that are doing the rounds, looks to be there's going to be change coming, and they're going to get a kick. You know, I think Dublin next year will be the team to beat.
I think you're right.
I generally just see faults in that Kerry team still. I just think they can be got at.
I agree. Look, I agree, to be honest, but I think if you went through every team, you'd find faults. Even the Dublin team that dominated, when I was playing, I'd have always looked at the full back line going, they can be there for the taking. But you never really got an opportunity to do it because most of the better teams are able to cover their faults. I just think we're probably all in agreement, bar Cian, because Cian thinks Kerry are going to win it for the next 10 years.
Not the next 10, but they are going to be. It's up to them whether they get a dynasty or not. It's up to what they bring to the table, the hunger they bring. But if they bring the hunger, player for player, I don't see teams, unless there's players on earth.
If they can cut out and not get distracted with the off-field stuff, because they're all, every year that goes by, they become more and more high profile, more and more distraction. So if you can curtail that, and when the season starts, forget the rest of it. It's all about football. There's no stopping what they could achieve, but it's a lot easier to sit. Like it's a difficult thing to do, keeping that hunger when you have outside distractions. But I suppose before we start building up Kerry anymore, it's another monkey in the room, or whatever you want to call it. The provincials this year, Derry were obviously a huge highlight. Leinster was, as we expected. Well, we kind of thought Kildare might do something. They collapsed. Kerry cruised to the Munster title. Connacht was decent. You'd Galway and Roscommon going in a decent final. May obviously didn't perform, but nearly pipped Galway early days. So I'm just not sure where we're going with it and how long more we can put up with it. I think the current format is going to go for another 2 more seasons, but I don't know how long more we can keep going. And I know the Ulster Championship is obviously competitive, but I don't think competitive means a good quality either. And I could get bait.
It's competitive, but across the board, is it the fair system? You know, is every team starting off from the same starting block? And for me, that's not the case. I think Dublin are getting their quarter final, or Kerry are getting their quarter final. You know, Derry have had to work. They've had to beat good quality teams to get to the quarter final, and it's not a case as if one provincial or 2 provincials is competitive, because Ulster's very competitive, Connacht's competitive. You know, we have the 3-4 teams there.
But if you take Kerry and Dublin out of Munster and Leinster, they're competitive,
right? But that's not the question we're asking. Like we're looking at it from a fair perspective here. Is everybody in the race to an All Ireland title starting from the same block here? And that's not the case. Everybody, it's less of a case where you have 4 or 5 horses in the race. 2 of them have weights, to handicap them, and it's not a fair system. You can argue that it gives nice days out and all this, and talk lovely about the feeling that you have when you win a provincial title, and that's good. But at the end of the day, it comes down to it has to be fair for everybody.
Yeah, I don't think, like, just from a Kerry point of view, that lovely feeling for winning, that's gone. And it's gone with a while.
Gone 30 years ago.
I wouldn't go that far. Maybe in the last 8 or 9, like when I started playing, the Kerry Cork games genuinely were brilliant, and you couldn't call them in Munster.
Yeah.
But even there's arguments too, and like you could say Derry or Battle Harden going into a quarter final, whereas a Kerry or Dublin have nothing done, and can get caught cold. Like I think this year Derry played
3 Division 1 teams.
Yeah, and look, I don't think that stopped them kicking on. Like they played Galway. Like we always say, oh, it's competitive. Competitive doesn't mean good.
Yeah, well, see, the style in Ulster nearly replicates.
It's all
each
mirroring.
team. Yeah. So it doesn't, and it doesn't help further down the line.
Like that, Derry were badly found out.
Yeah, big time. And if they had been playing maybe teams from different corners of the country in a build up to an All-Ireland quarter final, they could have figured out a different way to play the game. But their goal at the start of the year was win an Ulster title, and they done that. But like, I don't think it's. I definitely agree with Eamon. You see Dublin and Kerry coming into a quarter final, and no disrespect to anyone, cantering through. Like they don't have to start their championship build up for maybe 6 weeks after an Ulster team or a Connacht team, because like Galway had Mayo in the first round. Do you know, like, so that's a tricky one straight off the bat. Do you know, so like it's definitely, there's ways of tweaking that.
I think it more so affects the league, because the league is so close. Championship, you can't be going hammer and tongs for the league like we saw with Derry this year. You called it. They tapered off because they wanted to get ready for championship. So it kind of dilutes what is possibly our best competition, most competitive competition, where
evenly based.
Yeah. So there is a bit of tweaking to do here and there. I would prefer to see the provincials done before the league, as a kind of a pre-season for the league, and the league starts a couple of weeks later.
Can't see that happening now.
No, I can't either, to be fair. But like, I'd replace the McGrath Cup, the McKenna Cup, and all that with the provincial championship.
Yeah,
I think the sooner we get rid of the provincials, the better. And,
make them pre-season.
Like I've no bother with that. There, the league and then championship. In terms of the league, is probably overall our best product here, and it's teams around the same level all playing each other. Championship then, but we're never going to get to the stage where league will be our, people will be going all out to win the league title. It's the Sam Maguire that people want. So championship is the main product. Put the provincials back to the start of the season or a block before the league, and play them out. And for teams that value it, play it out. And for teams that have bigger things to think about in terms of Sam Maguire or pushing for promotion, let's go that way.
A bit like the split season. I actually don't know, is there any right way, because you'll always have a few looking at the provincials going, oh, they're looking at the historical side of things, and Cavan, when they won it, was such a big thing. But I don't know, I think they're gone. I think they're finished.
Yeah, well, look, as Eamon was saying, like the best product we have is the league, and then you have teams going into an Ulster Championship or a Munster Championship and getting hockeyed, and then they're going into the Tailteann Cup and they're kind of coming off a bad beating anyway, and they're going into a competition they want to win. So it's not a good start for them either. So look,
you need a bit of a gap between them.
Yeah, so like if you were trying to put it, ideally, put it at the start of the season. I don't see how the provincials, the councils and that will, like, there's more to it than going, this is the best for the game. There's more stuff that goes on behind the scenes, I'm sure, but like, definitely the league base is the best we have. Every game is competitive. Well, 90% of games are competitive. So that for me is the format we need to bring into a championship structure. But I don't think we're going to get in the next couple of years anyway.
We'll go back to this season, because we could actually spend the next couple of hours on that. But I suppose this year, look, I found it a good year. I know some people saying it wasn't. I genuinely enjoyed it, to be fair. But have you a game of the season? There's only one that stands out properly for me. I think there was a lot of good games.
Armagh Galway probably game of the season.
Yeah, Armagh Galway definitely for me now, and I thought it was a good championship season overall. Like there was bad games, but it overall was a good one. And that Armagh Galway game, there's very few games that would get me animated. Like I would never swear in front of the in-laws. I was watching that game and I was effing and being, and Joanne's mum probably seen another side of me because it had everything. It was just so exciting, and people get caught up in the moment. And Rian O'Neill just that kick by him just to draw it. I just thought it was such a great game.
Yeah, no, it's very rare you have a game that literally has everything: red cards, last minute frees, extra time, penalties, the whole lot. But this is a tough enough one. Most exciting team of the season.
Until maybe the Galway game, you could argue Derry. Derry were exciting. It was like they were banging in goals.
Yeah.
Every chance they got, they were going for goal. And then next of all, it came from the heights of where they were to cheapers. So bad. Like,
Oh, it's cat.
trying to just think. Yeah, look, either Kerry or Derry for me. Like Kerry were kicking points, kicking huge scores. Maybe just because they were new and exciting, I'd probably go with Derry until the Galway game.
Eamon?
Is this overall season or
Yeah.
just the championship we're talking about?
Season.
I'd probably have to go with Kerry. I think they won the league final comprehensively. They went out and they've played ball, and they've been good to watch, and just that's what it's all about. You can make an argument for Armagh. Armagh kind of tapered off a wee bit, dipped, and then came back into it again. But from an overall perspective, I'd say Kerry. I think they're just going to be pretty boring here.
Yeah. I underachiever, biggest disappointment for me, it has to be Tyrone. They're the All-Ireland champions and just didn't spark at all this year.
Yeah, they seemed to they didn't have the hunger or drive to kick on, so you'd have to be looking at them. One game in the championship and then a backdoor. Wasn't good. Two games in the championship and a backdoor. It's not
great.
Not great, no.
Eamon, would you agree, or anyone else?
I'm not poking Tyrone because I don't want to give them any ammunition to come back now, because that's normally what they do. They have a bad year following All Ireland one, and then they just kick right back into it now. So I just don't want to poke the bear. But listen, it's hard to be but disappointed when you go from All Ireland champions and the buzz, and then you just kind of fall flat in the championship the following season. I thought Cian might have went for Donegal there now. I think
he's giving you a break.
Donegal were in an Ulster final, so you can't really argue where they got to. But they went from, like, they fell from losing the Ulster final. Like, it was a huge drop off.
I'm going to cut you off there because you'll start talking for another 20 minutes and we don't have time for that. It's only a short show. This is a quick question. Player of the year. One man for me.
Sure, it has to be Clifford.
Yeah. Young player, a bit more of a debate. Young Glynn, I think, from Galway will be.
Yeah, he was.
I go young Glynn. Now, I'm still a bit foggy on the idea what age you have to qualify now. But
I was checking earlier. It's 21 and under.
I would still,
because I was trying to give Clifford the young and senior player of the year. I thought it was like the soccer, but he's past it. He's too old. He's finished.
A year or two left.
And this is the conversation I kind of wanted to go to today, as one that Cian wanted to get rid of. We go to you, Eamon. Shane Walsh is making headlines last week for all the right reasons, this week for me for all the wrong reasons. Transferring to Kilmacud Crokes, incredibly strange for me. I can't make sense of it. No matter, and he came out with a statement which I thought was even stranger.
Yeah, I just got the wee bit of the statement. Now, I think that's one of the things I love about the GAA, about the club, is that there's no transfers, or there's very few transfers now. It's a different case where someone is working and living, in Dublin. Say for Donegal to Dublin, that's an awful trip if you're coming just back for the club. I would just hate to go down the route of this thing becoming the norm now, that we just leave our clubs. I just don't want to go down that route, and I would like to do a bit more digging into the transfer in terms of the reasons and It's not as it appears.
He
That's what I would be saying. It never normally is.
he's come out
So I'd like
anyway.
to see.
He said it's about travel. And I'd agree with you. Like, he's 29. We talked about Keane. He's in the prime of his career, and I'd be winding you and like you transfer, but you were retired at this stage, and like you'd say to yourself, you were past your prime.
Well past it.
Do you know? And I think that's different. And like that, you'd have when fellas retire from the county game. Like we mentioned Tomas when he went to Nemo, but Tomas is well in his 30s. I just think Shane Walsh is at the top of the game nationwide. He's 29, the peak of his powers. Every young lad in Galway wants to be Shane Walsh at the moment. Every young lad in his club wants to play with Shane Walsh. You can imagine 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds thinking, 3 or 4 years I'll be playing with Shane Walsh. Do you know, it's not it's not far away. No, I can't agree with it, to be honest. I don't know who's advising him or what. He's not that badly stuck injury-wise that... And like that, he wouldn't be expected to travel down every week for training anyway.
Yeah, well, as much as I didn't want to get into this conversation, look at Everton involving a transfer. I'm sure is not black and white. I'm sure there's loads of different little things that's involved in it. But you're saying he wouldn't be expected to train if they're trying to win a championship. Every manager is only concerned about his team. He's not. No matter what, there's a manager in that team there that's there to win a championship at his club. He doesn't care if Shane Walsh isn't able to play in 2 years' time because of an injury. He wants Shane Walsh winning now for him. He'll want him training and at the peak of his powers. He'll want him travelling that 2.5, 3 hours on a Tuesday and a Friday and a Sunday for the whole summer. And he's probably doing it all the time. Now look we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on. Probably him giving out a statement probably just didn't help the situation. I thought it a bit strange and probably not having the best people around him advising him doing that. But look, there's probably loads of different reasons for it. He's living in Dublin. Look at transfers happen in the game. Probably the biggest one is that he's still in his prime. He's still probably capable of carrying his club nearly on his own. You know, whereas if he went in 2, 3, 4 years' time when he's in his kind of 32, 33, that's kind of... It's someone else's job then to carry the club. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And then he doesn't come across as
without
bad.
Poking the bear, because you're very close to me. When you transferred, what was the hardest thing? Is it the connection with the club, the lads? And I know you're in a position where you can't be up and down, especially with the club. It is different when you're, like you said, you have other things that are taking over. What's the hardest part of the decision?
Look, you grow up and you play with players, and look at you make friends for life without a doubt, and you don't want to let players down that you've played with all your life, and that probably is the hardest thing, letting down the players that you've played with, and like they obviously see going like, oh, there's so much more in you, we need you, we want you, and then you feel yourself going, geez, I'm kind of goosed here. I nearly want a back seat to be taken here. Don't have the energy to be constantly going to the well, and you still want them boys to win and you want to be able to help them. But like sometimes when there's just different things that go on in your life and outside of football that just makes it that wee bit easier. We don't know what's going on in Shane Walsh's life. He could have commitments here in Dublin that we don't know about. And this is just easier for him. You know, easier for him to actually continue to play football and continue on playing. Like, he's going to go into a dressing room and it's going to be new lads. Every dressing room is good crack. You just have to gel, and that bit comes easy. Like
And that's the other side of the argument. You know, you can talk about the motivations and the whole that it's not a black and white issue now, but the biggest thing I would have with the whole transfer is why does he have to go to one of the biggest clubs in Dublin? You know, Cahir O'Kane, who made a good point online during the week there and talked about it, he says, modern Ireland, the way it is, needs a transfer system. That's the reality of it. We don't want it to become, you know, a complete norm, but there has to be situations where it happens. But when it happens to be that one of the best players, you know, he's after putting on an unreal performance in the All-Ireland final, goes to one of the biggest clubs in Dublin, that's where I would have the issue. And maybe that's where it muddies the water a wee bit.
Yeah, like 100%. And look, we don't know whether his he has a partner or anything like that. This is from the club, and it does make it worse that it's Kilmacud Crokes and they're the big club in Dublin. Like, I moved to Mullinachta, and Mullinachta were the big club in Longford. My ties were all in Mullinachta. Do you know, like my partner's from Mullinachta, intention, building in Mullinachta, future in Mullinachta, you know, so these were all things to have a history with a club that my son is going to in time play with. These all factor into people for my personal opinion, for my transfer. But his look at we don't know, and Eamon, you're 100% right. It does sting a bit more because it's Kilmacud. They're so big, so vast, so wealthy. It just stings that wee bit more.
He also did say about come back to his own club. We won't stay in it too long. It was a case of going up there. I just think even if he wins a Dublin County Championship or even an All-Ireland club, that's hollow. There's no meaning. There's no meaning to it. Do you know, the whole thing with the club, and we talk about it a bit, like I won a junior All-Ireland in my club. Brilliant, amazing. Played it like you're going up the steps of the Hogan stand. No, it's only a tenth of what it would be full, but you nearly recognise every face. That's what you want. Like, look, we won't stay on it too long. I just think it's a strange one. And I think, imagine transferring club. Imagine if his club galvanised and won a title without him. I just think at 29, top of the game, I just think badly advised. But
possibly, just
look,
I'd like to know. I'd like to know what more the ins and outs.
We only know.
I think that's what will happen. More will come to light unless, you know, and we kind of need to know is true motivations, but it just doesn't look well.
No.
But there'll be more and more stories will come out that will be false more so than the truth. Like there'll be figures of money, figures of
there'll be rumours. That'll be your WhatsApp. But I want
silly stuff.
I want to move on because I don't want to dwell on that because look, we don't know the ins and outs of it. There's going to be, you mentioned earlier, Eamon, managerial revolving door. Colm O'Rourke has gone in with Meath and Sean Boylan is going in as a kind of advisor. First of all, I'd say fair play to Colm O'Rourke for taking it because he's been in the Sunday game for a long time and he's been there to be shot at. And I think if you're going as a pundit and then going into management, you're always setting yourself up. So I think it takes serious courage, to be fair, to do it. And I just loved the idea of having Sean Boylan back involved with Meath, to be fair.
Yeah, like...
I think, you know, three of us know it's far easier to be sitting on seats like this here, pointing out the faults and, you know, telling people what's wrong. You know, it takes a good bit of balls for Colm O'Rourke to do what he did. And so I always have good respect for Kevin McStay. He did the same. Left the cosy seat to Sunday game, got involved at the coalface, and... wide respect for Colm O'Rourke for doing that.
Yeah, I think he will get the best out of the group of players he has because his schools would have always had the best players. Cubs used to come and play for the school because he was there. So I really think he has a good rapport with a couple of generations of talent that have come through Meath. So I really think he probably done a little bit of homework before he really took the job. He probably would have said, are you willing to come? Are you willing to come? And he has players there that he wants to play, and he has a system he wants to play that suits them. He wouldn't have come in blind because, as Eamon says, he had the cushy seat, so he wasn't going to come in willy-nilly and take a job. He's going to come in now with a plan in place, and he's going to do a good 3 years, and he's going to try and close this gap. And if there was anyone you could pick that potentially could do it, with Sean Boylan with him, would be O'Rourke.
Yeah, and another big job... an important job, I think, is the down one. James McCartan stepped down again. Really hope they can get someone in that can kind of bring the group together again because they've had so much negative press. It's been all doom and gloom. It'd be nice to see them turn it around.
Laverty could be a good man. Yes, young and probably more of a trainer at the minute, but he's probably close enough to a lot of lads to be able to pull at them to go, we can get this show on the road here. And they really could. Like, they're in Division 3 now. Like, they can get the show on the road from Division 3 and build. You know, if they were in Division 2, you'd kind of question, this mightn't be a job for me. But he's in Division 3. Now, Division 3 is going to be a little tricky one too, but he can get his feet under the table there. I just think it'd be a really good job for him, a good fit. And if he had someone there as an advisor, like Sean Boylan, that he respects and he can listen to and doesn't want to dictate to him. He can use his ideas and bounce them off him. I think it'll be a really good job for him now.
Yeah, and Eamon, I suppose the biggest one in GAA at the moment, Declan Bonner has stepped down. They're ready to take on Kerry next year. Come on, spill the beans. Who's taking the job above? And don't go quiet now. Sometimes your microphone goes mute when you get asked these questions.
Did you not get chatting to Kavanagh when you were talking to him last Sunday night and ask? He would know more about it than I would now.
Well, I told him you were getting it.
No, listen, it's a big one. It's a big one. I think Donegal are still in that spot where they can compete. You know, we've been knocking about. We just need to get to the semi-finals. We need to get to a final, and just to keep that wee bit of momentum we gathered from the last decade going. And it's an important appointment with for the next man. And I would be saying just make sure the process, scour the country, not even the county, scour the country for the right man, because the qualities there. When you look at the ticket Mayo, the 2 tickets they're in for, high profile tickets they're in. I know there's more than
Mayo is the next one. Mayo's the next one. Yeah. It's a big one.
But both of them counties need a complete, like, players. Yes, I agree with him when he says the players are there. Definitely players in Donegal. But in Mayo and Donegal, it's a manager who can come in and completely change a system and style of play. Both Mayo and Donegal have played a system that is got them to a point and they can't get any further, so they need to change. So it mightn't be a high profile manager. It might be someone that's just willing to go, right, we're going to play it this way, and change it completely. Like, is Jason Sherlock is looking, talk about him in for the Monaghan job, like that type of young, energetic, and completely change a style of play that these two teams play. Yeah. That could be their answer, instead of going for, like, as the merry-go-round we spoke about. You go for your high-profile manager, names. Some of these managers are names from playing days and years ago. Like, the game is evolving so much. Someone maybe in their 40s, early 40s, that's just out of the game. But they'd be a lad like I'd be looking at, like someone with good ideas. Yeah. That could change the whole thing about who they are is up. County boards need to look at that. But I think that's, if I was looking for them 2 jobs, I'd be looking for.
I'd love to go into the managerial merry-go-round more detail, but we're actually running out of time, and I just want to touch on the Tailteann Cup before we finish up. Massive success, and genuinely looking forward to it next year, kicking on another bit. Obviously, Cavan will be hoping to get promotion, that they won't be in it, and they'll be disappointed with the way it ended. But I just thought, brilliant.
Yeah, look at it, and it was going fantastically well for Cavan until Eamon tipped Cavan to win it.
Fair play to
and the whole thing went pear-shaped. But no, it all look at. We spoke about the games, some of the best games of the weekends, including games like were Tailteann Cup games, because it was kind of like the league games. Everyone was on an even keel. So if we could get the likes of Down and these teams to buy into it again, if Down don't get promoted, then you get everyone bought into it, and then it becomes a real good competition. But first year again, I think it was a cracking competition.
Yeah, and
I thought it was a great competition. And when you look at the season from a whole, the GAA have got a lot right in it.
Yeah,
I think I would have talked about this on Saturday, saying this is year 1 of a kind of a positive era for the GAA in terms of where we go. Obviously the split season, it's just needs a wee bit of tweaking, but it's the right path. The Tailteann Cup's there. There's an open pack in terms of people competing for Sam Maguire. The same can be said about the Tailteann Cup. League's in good spot, and you've got to give them credit. Everybody's quick to point the faults and the criticise the GAA when they're doing something wrong, but they're doing a lot right, and we're in a good spot here now.
No, I think you're right, and it's probably a good way to finish off the show. The season has been a success, but unfortunately we're out of time, and that's the end of our show for the inter-county season. I want to thank my 2 guests who are regulars with me on the show, and I delighted to say 2 good buddies now, and looking forward to a couple of evenings out with you. So big thanks to Donegal's Eamon McGee and Cavan's Cian Mackey, Mystic Mackey, and I'm off for 6 months of the split season to bask in the Kerry glory.
Good man.
So we'll talk to you all soon.